Jonathan Kuminga is a guy that is also very polarizing because there are some people like me that see, wow, this guy can be really phenomenal. He can be elite. And there are other people that say, I don't see the hype in him. He was inefficient in the G League, all this and all that. But I'm high on Kuminga, higher than most. He averaged 16 and 7 in the G League. He had 3 assists. His efficiency was horrible. He shot under 40% from the field goal from the just on the floor. He shot under 30% from the three-point line and shot 63% from the free throw line. He's 6'7, 6'8, 210. And you just look at him, it's clear that he has an NBA body already. He already had like his muscles already pop out like a Super Saiyan Goku. Like he just has that build already. He just has that talent. When I watch him play, just efficiency aside, I watch him handle the ball. I see a lot of Paul George, smooth, fluid moments. He's not a stiff player, kind of like Cam Reddish is. Just a really smooth player. He can create off the bounce as well, even though he doesn't make those shots. You see the ability to for him to get to his spots and shoot with ease. And he's great in transition. I think if he's in a situation where he doesn't have to be the focal point and there's a lot of players creating, he can average 10 points per game easy in his rookie year, just off of transition baskets. He has good handle for his size, and he's a very good rebounder, a guy that I think in the league is going to average 8 to 9 rebounds per game, probably 9 at best. I see 8 rebounds per game, definitely. And just his weakness is that his shot selection is super poor. And I think that's what led to his efficiency being so bad. His shot is also extremely consistent. When you see him shoot, his form isn't bad. He just misses shots. And
Can't shoot right now.
sometimes the ball just comes out weird in different spots. And despite being super athletic, uber athletic, he's a poor defender. He's not a good defender. Off the ball, on help defense, he doesn't have that defensive awareness. On the ball, he does get beat, even though he's a great athlete. And as a passer, he just forces too many passes. He had the same amount of assists as turnovers per game. So because of that, you could have some concerns right there. But he's a guy that in the right situation, he can be an all NBA player. But in the wrong situation, he'll be a role player. He won't be very good.
I think Kuminga has the second highest ceiling in this draft, depending on where he goes. I think with the proper team, they can turn him into an MVP level player because he, like you said, he has the tools, he has the physical attributes, he has the athleticism. It's just about the same thing people say about Cam Reddish or Paul George coming into Kawhi, even at a point, putting everything together. And if a team can get Kuminga to do that, then I think he can be an MVP level player. Like you said, I think his floor is probably the lowest floor out of the 5 guys, out of the 6 guys we're going to talk about today. I think he can possibly end up not being a starter because of the fact that he doesn't put everything together. But I think his ceiling is extremely high. And like you said, a lot of his mistakes with shot selection, and you can see in the IQ in his game. Sometimes he takes a lot of bad shots that he needs to take. Even on times where he has mismatches, he takes pull-up jump shots or contested threes on mismatches where you could just take your guy to the basket. For a guy that's uber athletic, he doesn't really use it a lot in a half-court set. It looks like he wants to be a shooter more than anything. And somebody who's that athletic, that big, it's kind of a weird thing to see. Defensively, he lacks the IQ and he lacks the what's the word the instinct to make the right play on defense, which is sad because he has the abilities to play defense. And my pro comparisons for him it was 3 guys, Paul George and Jaylen Brown were the 2, and then Andrew Wiggins is a third. I think those are the 3 guys that kind of fit his games. Got guys who obviously had the physical tools, had the athleticism. Paul George and Jaylen Brown putting it together. Wiggins kind of not, but kind of figuring it out kind of late in his career. But I think Kuminga has all the tools. It's just depending on the team if he can get all that and get that IQ to put it all together.
And Kuminga has that high ceiling, and that's why it would be a shame if he got drafted to Cleveland. If he got drafted to Cleveland and they do reach for him, I think it would be a shame because Garland, Okoro, Kuminga, like Garland is the only one that can shoot. There's going to be no spacing on that floor. Kuminga is not going to thrive in that situation. You look at the Magic. I like the Magic's young core, but if I'm being honest, Kuminga, even though he has that high ceiling, I think pairing him up with that team that doesn't have a lot of shooters can mess him up. But I do feel optimistic because Jamal Mosley is the coach, and I think he has a good reputation. He could develop Kuminga into a good player, but I think a player that would fit Orlando better would be a guy like Scotty Barnes because Orlando already has the scores. They already have Markel. They already have Cole Anthony. They already have even RJ Hampton. I think Scotty Barnes is a guy who can come in and put everybody's talent together, and on top of that, they have the eighth pick. So let's say they do go with James Bucknight. Then they'll have Markel, James Bucknight, Isaac, Scotty, and then Wendell at the 5 or Mo Bamba. And I think Scotty's a guy who can kind of be the glue guy to that team. But Kuminga obviously has a higher ceiling. So if I was Orlando, I totally understand going for Kuminga because I would probably do the same thing. But the best fit for Kuminga is Toronto. I think if he goes to Toronto, he can come off the bench for his first year, kind of like Jaylen Brown did in Boston, and just develop. Jaylen Brown didn't become this player until like 3 years into his NBA career. Jason Tatum was better as a rookie than Jaylen Brown was in his second year in the league. So because of that, I think Kuminga going to Toronto, coming off the bench, learning from OG, who's already an established player, and just learning the ropes, learning what it is to play defense, I think would help him a lot. And he could reach his potential in Toronto.
Yeah, I think that three-man tandem of OG, Kuminga, Siakam is crazy. Like that wing tandem is ridiculous. But like you said, Jaylen Brown, it took him time to develop. He just became this player. I guess we could say in the bubble that year. He just became. Then this year he took the bigger leap. So it takes time, and it's about a team waiting on the time because if he does get to that player, he's going to be one of the best players in the league. It's just about what team is going to wait on it, what team is going to have the proper guys to get him to that level. And like you said, Orlando, I like the coaching. I like Jamal Mosley. That's why I would say Orlando. And Orlando's kind of in a Toronto situation where they're not a place, especially after the bubble. Nobody wants to go back to Orlando. And not to mention, they don't have like a market where it's like, they're fighting with Miami out there in Florida. Then we got LA, the both teams. We got Boston. New York is back, so they're in a position where they're not a high level market. So it's going to be tough to attract free agents. So I wouldn't mind him going there, and they're banking on his potential. Toronto is obviously the best pick because of the development, but Toronto, I think Orlando, and I think a sneaky pick is also OKC, because I think Shea at the 1, Dortz at the 2, Kuminga at the 3 is ridiculous. You get two guys who could potentially play all NBA defense. I think that'd be good. I like OKC's direction. I like that Kuminga is going to be able to grow there. They let their young guys play. Theo Maladone played. Poku played. They let their young guys play and develop. So I think those three teams. If I had to put them in order, I'll probably go Toronto, OKC, Orlando. But I think any of those three teams get him, he's going to be all right.
Yeah, we've just seen in Orlando before that they've always had young talent. I mean, Orlando at one point had Oladipo, they had
Aaron
Alfred
Gordon.
Payne, Aaron Gordon. They had Alfred Payne, who at the point at that time was supposed to be better than what he became.
Yep.
They also had they had Tobias Harris
Fournier.
as well. Yeah, Fournier came after, I think, but
I think that's when he uplifted though in Orlando.
But they had Oladipo, they had Gordon, they had Tobias, they had Alfred, and they had Vucevic. Yeah,
Yep.
so they had a really good young core, but they just didn't have the right mix of players, or they didn't have players that fit each other's games. Aaron Gordon was always clashing with Tobias. Oladipo, he wasn't played at his natural position as a point guard because of Alfred. Because Alfred was there. So I don't think Orlando Kuminga, I don't know if he really fits what they want to do. And if he would be a fit next to all those guys, I do think Orlando does need some floor spacing. And it's just it sucks that in their situation, Kuminga and Scotty don't offer that. Like you mentioned earlier, Jalen Green would have been the perfect fit for them because he's a plug and play, score 20 a night type of guy, and he would thrive with the guy in Markel who is a point guard who can really get everybody into their spots. So because of that, it's going to be tough. Orlando's in a tricky spot with the 5th pick. That's why I think the 8th pick might be more important than the 5th pick for Orlando.
Yep.
Because the 5th pick is going to be used to draft a guy that has talent, like Scotty or Kuminga. The 8th pick is going to be used to draft a guy who's established, like Bucknight, like Moody, one of those guys. So it's going to be a pretty cool draft for Orlando.